All right, gang, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is another episode of Reconnect Inward, Conversations in Courage. And today I am joined by a little firecracker, a colleague of mine, a super beautiful soul inside and out. And she's definitely part of the high vibe tribe. So I'm joined today by Suzanne. So Suzanne Hedges, say hi, Suzanne.
Hello. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Suze is joining me today because she's all about one word, and that one word is super prevalent in today's ever-changing landscape, and that is connection. She's made a living off of the word connection. And what we're going to share with you today is some thoughts of how passion for people can elevate you, of course, elevate those that you come in contact with. And we want to talk about courage, and we want to bring in some thoughts to that in terms of reconnecting with your youth, right, Suze? Reconnecting with the child within.
Bingo, bango.
And just kind of a mindset shift of finding that inner courage and what that means in terms of a quite prevalent fear-based mindset that is out there that we're dealing with day to day. So, Suzanne, why don't you start just kind of introducing yourself, and then we'll dive in and start to create some magic together.
Thank you so much, Jim. Well, first of all, I love the introduction that I've made a business out of connecting. That is very true. You and I have shared this story. I taught overseas, and that was when I didn't know the language. I couldn't speak the language, couldn't read, couldn't write. And that was my opportunity to show the connector. So I really kind of became an animated version of me and found that I was able to connect through energy. Energy is what this world is truly based on, and that was in Japan. So, from here to there, I came back. I didn't want to teach because it was a very different landscape overseas than here. And I got into tourism and hospitality management, which led me into wedding planning, which led me into working for boutique resorts and connecting. Always, I love hearing people's stories, identifying, sharing, that whole piece. So to kind of pull this all in together, it is always about finding the joy with one another. And, what better way to find joy than to go inwards? And when we go inwards, we find our inner child. And that inner child never, ever has a problem finding joy. It's about creativity and shifting the mindset. Yes, there is so many things that are unprecedented happening right now. There are so many things that are undefined and fearful. But, and we talked about this, what do? We turn our fear into faith. We just need to become more faith-based, and not in a religious or spiritual way, in a very personal way.
So, yeah, exactly. And whatever that means to anyone, and ultimately, as we were discussing, it is an inward look to whatever that is inside that burns brighter, and then could push fear into the back seat where it belongs, right? So there's so many little segues that you just kind of delivered in that intro, which is amazing. Let's start by connection. So obviously we're in a situation now where we realize, God, when connection is taken away from us, we feel trapped, we feel vulnerable. We know instinctively we're designed as human creatures to be social animals, and yet we take that for granted. And when that's stripped away, people are starting to lose their minds a little bit. And we've also seen a rise in other ways to provide connection. Right. So the virtual, what I do for a living, coaching and performance-based personal and business brand work. I do this all the time. I'm connecting remotely all the time. Now a whole whack of demographics are first time finding how this is a useful medium for connecting.
Yeah, absolutely. total digital transformation, like overnight, right? Like this is going to put the world, it's going to put our society in a completely different state.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I'm an extrovert of extroverts, like, and so like human connection is like super important to me. So to be able to like see your eyes during a conversation, to be able to, I can't feel your energy because we're not in the same room, but I know that we're part of the high vibe tribe. Like our frequency is the same.
Right.
So, you know, it is still keeping those connections alive is of the utmost importance in such a vulnerable time.
So for the people that are listening to this, then I do know that you have maintained your ritual, if you will, of connecting every day. And so maybe give some insights into what you're doing to connect. And Connection Gang isn't just about connecting to other people. It's also connecting to nature. It's connecting to yourself, your inner self. It's finding connection. And so maybe you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. I think that it starts from like almost setting an intention the night before. Like when I wake up in the morning, like this is what I'm going to do. And like my coffee ritual in the morning will never be taken away from me. It's like frothed milk, it's cinnamon, it's the coffee. It's, if I don't have an espresso, like I'm just brewing regular coffee, but it's my ritual. It's my thing. Don't ever take it away from me. Then we will have a crisis. So it's setting the intention the night before of like, okay, like what am I going to do to make myself feel good to really jumpstart the day? And, you know, we've probably all read a little bit of Robin Sharma, like the 5 a.m. club. If you get up anywhere from 5 a.m. to 5:59, you're in the 5 a.m. club and you can really get some really good momentum started for the day. So I do set my intentions the night before. And when I wake up, it's like, okay, like I know I'm going in nature somewhere today. I know I'm going to write at some point today. I know I'm going to read at some point today. I have a 4-year-old son that keeps me wired and tired at the same time, but he is part of my joy. He totally fulfills me, but he doesn't give me everything. I have to be able to give myself. I have to be able to fill my own soul.
Yeah.
So it's the ritual. And I think, meditation, reading, what are you choosing to read, right? Like, are you choosing to read the fear mongering, or are you choosing to go, hey, like, let's see what Bill Gates has to say about that. He's a stellar guy, by the way. You know, like it's just really what we deposit in. We're essentially planting something in us to sow and grow. And when that harvest comes, when people really need your positivity and your energy, you've got it because you gave that to yourself and now you can share it.
Right. And so at Leap Zone Strategies, we call this the winning ritual, right? And it's a non-negotiable. And what you're talking about is you have for yourself a series of things that you do that are non-negotiable because they are for you, designed to elevate you and to not only give you momentum, but also protect you from the shit that happens in the day that, you know, sometimes things are out of our control. And 100%. And I think, you know, at this time right now, it's so crucial because habits are being formed now. People are inside, people are isolated, some people are choosing to choose negative impulse or negative inward retention, if you will, from media and things like that. And I am all for, you know, decompressing and putting on Netflix and doing things like that. However, some people are taking that to the extreme where they're going to, you know, eat all day, binge watch, drink at night, have games. And this is the time to create new habits so that when the dust settles, which it will settle, right? When the dust settles, we can actively be 1 foot forward in momentum of creating new, positive, uplifting habits.
Absolutely. Right? And, you know, to really just echo what you're saying about that, we are going to emerge from this. And like, what story do we want to tell from this? Like, oh, I sat around and I just got like fatter and pudgier and like, you know, no, I actually worked on myself. Like there was a lot of self-development in this. And there was
That's
a
right.
lot of, just really surrounding yourself with that high vibe tribe, the people that really are your ride or dies, because everybody's going to be on a bit of a roller coaster, right? Like it's inevitable.
Right.
And we can't maintain this high frequency all the time. Like it's impossible. So knowing who we can reach out to, knowing that I know myself well enough that if I'm not feeling like I can, quite muster up the energy to do exactly what I want to do today, I'm going to call Jim. Jim, talk me up, bud. Level me up.
Right. But that's
Yeah.
so important to have those people, those kind of go-tos. I mean, and everyone should have that, right? And Susan and I joke, we say high vibe tribe, but it's kind of true. It's like, I mean, all I do is give all day long, and yet after a conversation with Suze, it's like, yeah, you can feel the battery just go zzz, like it's recharging the soul, right? And having some of those key connections, bringing it back to connections, key connections that elevate you and that fill your cup, those are what things are about. And likewise, Suze, right, being aware of those that drain your cup is also a huge thing to be cognizant of, and to make some choices. Now is the time where it's an even playing field, right? So you can emerge from this with your chessboard of a good group of soldiers and pawns and knights and rooks and all of that that are just going to move forward, and you're going to elevate, and you're going to rock and roll. That's what it's about.
It is. It totally is. And, I think that that elevation, I love that word, because it's a visual, it's a feeling, it's an emotion. It's like we all want to be elevated. And when we can do it together, like when we can really lift each other up and rise above what we've been given right now. And you said it, we're all on equal playing field right now. Like everybody is equal. The thing that is differentiating us right now is mindset.
That's right.
Right? There's a positive and there's a negative. And, I think we all know where we want to be. And it's hard to maintain that sometimes, but being honest with yourself like that's a big thing too. Being informed, but not obsessed. There's some folks that just get totally obsessive about this sort of news. And we need to park it and go, you know what, heard enough, peace out. It's going to be the same thing tomorrow and the next day, right? So like, let's just deal with it right now. And then I'm not going to talk about it. It's actually a really hard challenge to not talk about COVID-19. It's really hard.
Right. It is hard, right?
But we can change the dial, right? We can talk about the faith versus the fear.
That's right. And this, like I talked about with my last guest, Tina Overbury, like this is the time to, the nature of these conversations is courage. Everything ties back to courage. And these are challenging and you could say fearful times for many, and they're also can be courageous times for many of us. For those that choose to look at this like a time that the human spirit came together and elevated. And I this brings me back to an example, and it's not the same, but I'm just going to give it in context here. Is I lived in New York City during 9/11, and that event did elevate the human condition. And it forced people to go through a variety of emotions, and to go through a journey. And ultimately, I like to think that as a human condition on a broad spectrum, we came out of that once that dust settled. if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Once we came out of that, we were elevated, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and this is the time now to step into a courageous mindset on the micro level. You, the viewer, you, Suze, me, we all do our part. And what can we do on the greater spectrum? And for many of us, and Suze, for you, it is staying connected. It is a non-negotiable, right? Being there for your people, for your loved ones, for your family, of course, but for your community.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a lot of business owners. You know, keeping these business owners engaged with their community now is super important, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the time, Suze, where leaders need to lead, right?
That's right.
And we're
Yeah.
all leaders. You're a leader too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we need to step up and lead people, right?
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, right, like, you know, I know you're a single mom, you know, you're home. There's times where you're home unisolated. What are you channeling, courageous wise, that you're pulling on to get you through this?
Mm. Yeah, great question. Well, you know what? I always think, what do I want to be in the receiving mode of, right? Like we can be in the receiving mode when we are low or when we're high. How do we want to feel? Do we want to feel good or bad? I'm very thankful for having gone through adversity in my life, because it's better equipped me to deal with this kind of stuff, because I've done a lot of inner work. I've read a lot of things that were really, they really changed for me. They were something that I read that I will carry with me forever. And it's about being in the seat of self, where we know that we believe in ourselves so much, and our judgment on ourselves, like we have faith in ourselves. So, you know, I think that there's really, I just keep myself, I hold myself accountable.
Mm,
I can think about how I'm going to feel if I go down a certain path, because I've done that. I've been through adversity and I don't like that feeling, right? I'm thankful for the things like divorce, going through things that really contour who you are going to be in this life. You're pushed, you're challenged. So, you know, I think that that has given me a lot of courage to be able to be maybe a bit more of a voice, maybe a bit more of a support for those that are just really struggling at this time. And
mm.
there's a lot of people really struggling, and that breaks my heart. I mean, I'm definitely a heart-led leader, like all the way. Like, and I think I feel I'm an emotionally sensitive person,
Yeah,
and so I want to be able to help others' light shine brighter just by being me, because I know who I am. I know what my light is.
that's very well said. That's good. Thanks, Suze. Powerful, baby. Powerful. Love it.
You know, when you're given an opportunity to just
Wow.
speak from the heart and speak who you are, it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean that's the nature of these conversations that I put together. I just want it to be heart-led conversations. It's just there is no filter, right? It's
Yeah.
this is what comes out, and this is what we're thinking, this is what we feel,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, and hopefully inspire some people to take some action, right?
Totally.
And so you've made it a point day in and day out now, as of late,
Mm-hmm.
to stay connected. So you know, and for everybody, other people out there that may be struggling with that, there are support groups online. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities for people to stay connected to their community, connected
Yeah.
to their support groups, or even join support groups. The amazing thing right now is it's like
Mm.
there's a lot of offerings out there, and you know, you can just join without even knowing anybody. That's the great thing, because again,
Yeah.
the playing field is even,
Yeah. Very
right?
true. Very true. And there's so many, I love the saying, if you feel helpless, help somebody. If you're feeling low, reach out. Like, that's all that is saying. Because chances are that feeling that you are feeling, somebody else is, and you can really heal together. I think there's going to be a lot of trauma that is going to come up for people, from the past, present, and just what are we going into? And there's so much uncertainty, but if there's one thing we know about life, the only thing that's certain is uncertainty.
Uncertainty, yeah.
So, and really, I mean, the whole passion for people for me is that when I see people going through a difficult time, I feel like, okay, this is my work. This is my assignment. I want to be there for this individual. I feel them. I feel their heart. I feel their energy. Yeah. And sale, I've been really fortunate in my roles to have kind of like it's always connecting on a level. Even though we're doing business together, we're relationship building. That relationship building is just, it's case in point. And it should never stop, especially in a time like this. Should be when the relationship building is at its strongest.
So for people that are out there that may be feeling lonely, for reaching out, would you suggest maybe even starting their own support group? Like, just go with their friends and try to design some times to meet remotely, like virtually, and just talk, right? Talk is huge right now. Obviously, conversation is king.
Absolutely. And, right? If communication was ever key before, it's more so now, because there's, internal messaging, external messaging, and, there's so much going on that we have to be able to filter through that. So to really be with your like-minded people, or just maybe there'll be some new avenues that will be found for people in this too. And reaching out when you're lonely, it's a hard thing to do. I mean, I lived my life as Susie Sunshine for so long, pretending that everything was a certain way. And now it's like, when I am not feeling well, that's the first thing I do is reach out. I'll look inwards first and be like, hey, like, is this something that I can get on top of? Just right. Through my own work and therapy and just all of that. But you know what? It's important that we know that we're all in this together. Not just this life, what we are all creating, what we're co-creating with the universe, what we are co-creating together. Yeah. And I see it as like obstacles are just detours in the right direction. And, it really, we can't see it sometimes, but then we'll look back and go, man, I couldn't see the forest or the trees on that. But I get it now. I get it now.
Oh, I get it now. I mean, I spent 2 years in trench warfare of self-growth, and fuck, did I ever think I didn't know if I'd ever crawl out of the trench, right? But boy, once you climb out and you breathe the fresh air, holy fuck, is it amazing, right? And so yeah, like right now, some people can't get clear about what's going to happen. We don't know certain things. All that we do honestly know is that things will go back to normal. It will be a new normal to some degree, but things will go back. And, the best thing that each of us can do is to take the time. And I said this before, I'll probably say it in every conversation that I have on the show is, we have the gift of time. It's, most of us have never had this gift. The business owners that I work with, 80% of the time they're working for the business. They're in the trenches of the business. Now some of them aren't working that, but they're building the business. Now they have all this time to build different revenue streams, lay the foundations for the future. It's a gift. It's just how you perceive it. And same thing on the personal level, right? There's people that I'm involved with, that coaching, that it's like, now they realize it's like, wow, like I have time to actually work on me.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's amen. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and folks, you can work on you on a
Mm,
couch. You
yeah.
can work on you, in a chair with a book, watching motivational videos, attending, workshops and telesummits. I mean, those things are still happening remotely. There's
Yeah.
so much growth and so much momentum that can be had in isolation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking about one of my favorite thoughtful leaders is Gabrielle Bernstein, and she's, just that whole faith-based and just the whole rituals. And we need more love than fear as well. We need to really, everything can be encapsulated in love, and it's not looking at everything through rose-colored lenses.
No,
It's being aware but being mindful. And I think that's something that is currently happening in the state of this world crisis, is that the equality has really given us an opportunity to show love. And number one, you got to show love to yourself.
right.
Like, I'm not one of those people that stays in my pajamas all day. Like, I find I really like to make myself feel good, because then I'm in a place that I can make others feel good too. Right? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah. And it does kind of go back to all those like rituals that we do for ourselves. We have to
Hey,
do them for ourselves.
athletes, I mean, from the athletic world, we all have our crazy rituals, like,
Mm.
and in the boathouse, we would hang our socks on the boat rack, and they would be, we'd practice in those socks every day for the entire season, like kind of weird shit, right? Like,
Totally weird
but
shit.
it's rituals that create some sense of kind of additional momentum, and they're catalyst for growth or for achieving things. And so, it
Yeah.
does start with love. And I just want to double click on a point that you brought up about love. It's, leading with love is the way to go. And
Yeah.
I'm blessed to work for a company that is a heart-based company.
Mm.
You're into conscious business and conscious connection as well.
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for you, but like, leading with love doesn't mean you have to be all hippy dippy. And it's not.
No.
We're not. Back in the '60s, like my folks, right? This is just about giving intention and attention with love in everything you do. It's just being
That's
gracious
right.
and having a sense of grace, right?
That's right. And I want to, I just, one touch point is that, a lot of people think, well, I haven't done that until this point. I haven't done this. Well, there's always a choose again method. You can always start tomorrow. You can start to live your life however you want to live your life right now, in
Right
this
now,
moment, right
right
now,
now,
right,
right now, right now.
freaking now.
I should play Van Halen's right now, right now.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. And like, we talk about this too, like music is such a feel good.
oh,
Put on your favorite tunage, like just do the tunage thing. And if you're feeling like, I need to pick me up, have a little dance, make a
totally.
little love, get down tonight.
Get down tonight. Get down
Yeah,
tonight, right?
right.
Let's lead with love, babe. Let's do it. Let's go, people. We got this, right?
Yeah,
But it is just about energy, right? You talked earlier about connection and energy,
yeah.
and ultimately everything is energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is being aware of that, and you know, the energy is now.
Mm-hmm.
The energy is yours now if you want it, right? And you're right, Suze. Like, it doesn't matter. Well, I haven't done that to this date. I haven't done that. Like, do you know there's going to be so many success stories that come out of this situation where
Mm-hmm.
people wrote a book, people checked this thing off their bucket list, they achieved this, and it's because all they did was make a conscious decision. My someday I will is now. That's it,
Yes. Yeah,
right?
totally. Totally. Yeah. And I definitely was one of those individuals that said, "Oh, one day I want to write a book. One day I want to do this." And my one day started,
Yeah.
well, I think I committed to writing every single day, because I am a writer, but I committed to writing every single day a week and a half ago. And that, like that is setting an intention. And sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like writing, but I have to, because I made a promise to myself. The only person that is going to suffer from me not writing is me.
It's me.
Me.
It's me. So,
yeah.
Suze, let's, because we talked a little bit before we decided to actually record our conversation. So we've been talking for a bit, and something is going to change in the landscape of mental health as we come out of this, right? And so let's talk a little bit about that. You had brought this up in our conversation that perhaps mental health could be the next crisis.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think so, because sometimes to go inwards can be a scary place. I know when I had to really go inwards and do my deep-seated work, it wasn't during a global crisis like this, but it was my own crisis. It was really difficult to work through that. I wanted the distractions. I wanted, to just be able to run away from it. But when I sat with it and dealt with it, yeah, I mean, what you emerge from is change and a new adaptation. It's a new normal. So in essence, this crisis is going to be those that really have a hard time going inwards. It's going to be a scary place for them. And that's where I get concerned, is that we want to be able to reach and assist and love as many people as we can, right? We want our light to just shine and spread, and we can't do that. Like, it's not physically possible. Maybe through these portals we can, right?
Let's hope.
But I think that that's going to be on the rise. We know mental health is already its own, there's so many things surrounding that, and that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? But yeah, I do worry about that. And it is mindset. It's exactly your sign behind you. Mindset is everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of what we've talked about so far are ways that people can mitigate some of that negative energy and kind of going down that path, that mental health crisis path, is if we're aware that shit, I'm struggling in this situation. So, and there's people and it's the people that, in my opinion, that were struggling prior to this crisis.
Yeah.
Whether they knew it or indirectly kind of felt they were stuck, then they get this crisis on top of it. Those are the people that I'm really, really concerned about moving forward. Because do they have the support network? Are they equipped with this, even the self-spark, right? What we talked about, I mean, really, courage is that kind of that igniter switch. Do they have some sort of courage that they can pull on from their past, from anything, to get them to take the very next step, right? That very next step to whatever it may be. I need to eat a little healthier. You know what? Or I can't keep, I gotta not have any alcohol in the house now. I'm not gonna go back to the liquor store, because all I'm doing is sitting around with fear and drinking, watching TV, watching the news. I need to make a step, the courage to make that step. And then one step gives momentum. And then if you add some support network in there and some people to have conversations with, or whatever it may be, though that needs to happen. And those are the people, though, that I'm concerned with. And, it is a dangerous situation for many people. And I think your concern is valid, that, when we come out of this, there could be a whole nother, a whole nother element to the mental health already existing pool that we're going to add into it, right? Because of what people have been going through.
Exactly. And, at this point in time, it's like I think it's most important to focus on the wellness rather than the illness, right? Like there is, we are fortunate enough to have our health, and there is going to be some very sad, tragic stories that come from this, but it's not necessarily your story, right? Like we're going to be affected by all of this, but we have to go on. We have to go on as society, and we need to, rise like Phoenix from the ashes. Like we really need to put our armor on, and armor comes in the form of our high vibe tribe, our habits, our rituals, and it's all encompassing. And one thing I was going to say, because we talked about this earlier, was that you don't have to go from 0 to 60, right? You just level up, like just one little step at a time. So I woke up this morning, and you know what? Like I ate the cheesecake from the night before. Well, that's okay. You don't feel great about that.
Was it good? Was it good?
Well, this is hypothetical.
Oh,
but that is something I would do.
I thought you were actually spilling the beans on yourself.
No, that is something I would do, though, 100%, because cheesecake, if it's in the house, like, okay, I hear you, I'm coming for you, I'll eat you. But no, I think that it's just knowing that we can just go one step at a time. It's okay. Yeah. We get to choose again. We get to just make one little tiny baby difference.
That's right. And giving yourself permission that you're not perfect and no one is perfect.
Nobody.
Right. And I think one of the reasons why I've achieved the level of peace that I've achieved is because I've come to peace with the fact that I'm not perfect. Yeah. I know I've risen from the ashes, and I will never make those same mistakes that I've made in the past. And yet I've also learned to give myself permission that I'm not perfect in terms of these other things, right? If I do want to have that cheesecake, or I don't feel like going out for a run today because I'd rather contribute and take extra coaching calls to help people, like that's okay. And I'm going with the flow, right? And so giving yourself permission is a huge thing, a huge thing. And I know that comes easier once you've established some momentum. It's easier to kind of have that inner voice. It's a little bit more challenging when we start that journey to all of a sudden, like, you want to keep your foot on the gas, right? I get it.
Well, it's we talk about this word a lot, grace, right? It's having the grace and the kindness for yourself too, because it's a journey. We don't know what this destination looks like right now, but our self journey right now can be like that destination, wherever we're going, however we're getting there. It can be one thoughtful step at a time in our journey, in our own personal journey, because everything is personal right now. Like we're doing this because we can't do it sitting in a office together, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we can't do it live with people in the audience, right? Unfortunately, right? And so and ultimately, I feel more inspired just from the conversation, right? And that's the thing. This is conversation inspires conversation inspires conversation. And if no one was to watch this ever and listen to this for some reason, right? I know that I've elevated from this conversation, and the work that I do tomorrow when I wake up with my clients is going to be slightly elevated because of what I've felt and kind of triggered with from tonight's conversation, right? And that's what it's about.
And it is courageous to come out and tell our story too. And it is sometimes hard to say, hey, like I was really struggling with this, or to have those difficult conversations personally, professionally. But man, once you do, and once you get into the habit of doing that, it's like you can't stop. Like you're not capable of the surface anymore. No, we got to go deep.
I know, got to go deep.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I found that I've gotten myself to, and that's where my if I can call just in my life what I think as what I see as a success measure to me is feeling joy, connecting with people on a heart level, because we all have hearts, we all have stories, but who's willing to share them? And when we get there, man, it's a beautiful thing when we can get there. That to me is success. Like, and it's conscious capital that will bring you there. Just being aware of people and the empire of like emotion and
Love it.
frequency of where we can all be. Yeah.
You know, that I love that. I love that. You know, it does come down to frequency, and I want to segue into kind of our last topic because we're getting close to time here. But
already? Wow.
I know.
Time flies.
But you know, the thing is how do I had my thought and I lost it. But I'll just gonna rant because we're just spitballing here. Freestyle, baby. You and I, like, I'll speak for myself. Well, I know you're the same cut of the same cloth. Is one of the things that we do well and others could really benefit from is every day we wake up and it's like, okay, eyes of a child, right? The joy, you talked about this, the joy that children look, you know, the lens of the way they view the world, there's joy in it. And how can we in this new environment capitalize on some of that? Because that is that's definitely a secret ingredient into Susie's kitchen. I know that for sure, right? Like that's a big thing for you. Like you have a 4-year-old, you see it with Holden, you know, with my girls, I see it. And you know, that term kid at heart, I mean, that is definitely me, 100%. I mean, you've seen some of my dance videos. I don't mind making a fool of myself, right? Because it's like, I'm a kid at heart, right? So let's uncrack that one for a little bit. Because now is a creative time, can be a creative time for people. And creativity and imagination is something that I feel has been lost by many adults.
Yeah, right? Very true. Very true. As you said, I'm fortunate enough to actually be in the mindset of a 4-year-old in the company. So talk about imagination. What a beautiful thing. And to be able to like get on that level and just go there and just get lost in it is so much fun. And, you know, we talked about too, how that childlike mind, that innocence, that age of innocence, let's return to the innocence. And you'll find too that, well, I found like just being out in nature every day now, and we pack a picnic and we go and we explore and we're on a scavenger hunt and we're doing all these fun things. And it's taking me back. My nostalgia is kicking in from when I was a child and the things, and I can feel like my joy meter just going up through memory as well.
Wow.
And it's super cool. And another thing is to just, you know, we need to not be so hard on ourselves. Kids aren't hard on themselves. You know, they like do something, they're like, oh, sorry, they're on to the next thing. Like we seem to sit and wallow in stuff and like, man, I shouldn't have said, oh, why did I do that? And then carry it with us. And then before we know it, we got another frown
tell
line.
Tell that to my 12-year-old and her dancing though. Talk about hard on herself. But I know what you mean though, you know, like there's definitely an element of, all right, no biggie, right? Boom.
Yeah, we can choose again. We can choose again. It's okay.
Right.
It's
and
okay.
And ultimately, that's the thing. I'm not happy in my job. Well, okay, I can choose another job. I mean, all that can apply to adults in this day and age, right? Like it's at the end of it, it's so complex in its simplicity, right? You know, and they say the most complex thing in the world is simplicity. Well, it's true.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and that's what I love is that innocence of, okay, well, I know, you know, I don't want to do this, I'll do this. Like, you know, and I feel like it'd be interesting to see what I'll it's interesting because of my girls. Now my girls are 12 and a half and 9. And, you know, we've had talks, they even struggle with, and I struggle as a parent, that, you know, now that there's quarantine and self-isolation time and social distancing and all that,
Mm-hmm.
they're sequestered to their own devices even more. And now they're starting to just get back to that kind of imagination mindset that I had as a kid. Like, I didn't have technology. So
Yeah.
I had to freaking fill my time with being imaginative and creating things and doing stories and writing stories and picture books
Mm-hmm.
and creating plays and things like that, that I feel have added to the tapestry of who I am today, and
Mm-hmm.
ultimately have added to the value that I can bring to the clients that I work with, right? And so it'd be interesting to see now how, if that changes at all, where people are cooped up, or are they just going to fall to their default mechanism, which is they're on the phones all day, they're FaceTiming their friends, kids, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not having that quality time, non-technical time
Mm.
to bond.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you just said about the tapestry of like just all your experience to bring you to who you are. Sorry, I just got caught on that for a minute because I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but as parents, like we can still control our child's environment to a certain degree, right? And I think there's a lot of parenting that I see that it's like, oh, just let my kid do that because it's easier, right? Like I got to do what I got to do. So maybe now, because we have the time, we're going to engage with our kids more.
Yeah.
We're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm actually not okay with you doing that. And I'm going to step in and I'm going to say, we're going to do this instead. Because every child wants time with their parent, I think so. Maybe teenagers, they're a little different, eh?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they would love what's TikTok. TikTok is like the
Baby.
latest, greatest. So yeah, you're totally into the TikTok. I think it's just being inventive, being childlike, letting your mind be creative again. That's
Right.
we need to just let go of what we think we need to do and go, what do I desire to do?
Yes. What do I want?
Right? What do I want? Do I want to be like just so stressed out? Like nobody wants to be stressed. So what helps you free from that stress? And I believe everybody has a creative outlet. Everybody has a creative release. So it's
Yep.
just finding that. And I think once you find that,
Boom.
fireworks.
And tying that all up in a nice bow, what do you need to find that? You need the time.
Yeah,
And guess what, people? We have the time.
we
So,
do have the time.
right, let's reconnect inward. Let's have those
Mm-hmm.
internal discussions with yourself. What do you want? As Suze was saying, what do you want? What do I desire? And start that process. Start writing. Get it out of the head, down on paper. Create some tangibility around it. That's the first step to making it more of a reality. That is the first step.
Yeah.
And just as Susie said, this is the time to connect, and this is the time to choose the energy or the frequency with which you will connect to, so that you come out of this a better person. And as I talked about on my last show, I feel, and Susie, I feel very strongly about this, that we've been given this gift and the responsibility to emerge from this better on a collective level, of course, but also on an individual level. I choose to come out of this a better person than I was a week ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever. And this is the time to lean into it. And so that's kind of my mindset. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that, Suze, and tie it up with a Susie Q kind of package bow.
Susie Qism, right? Yeah. I just think, you know what, my guidepost every single day is turning fear to faith, because we do all have fears, right? We do, but what are we choosing to do with them? How are we dissolving them? Are we talking about them? I'm an external processor. I have to talk through things. So that's what I choose to do. I take my high vibe tribe and go, hey, we got to talk. And then it's like afterwards, it's almost like it just dissipates, and then I can focus on the things that really are filling my soul.
Nice. Beautiful. Faith, so fear to faith, faith being inner courage, and however that manifests for each of us. We all have the courage inside.
Yeah.
Even for those that don't think they're courageous, there's always points to look back to in your life where you've exhibited some sort of courage. Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
All of us. We all have a story. Yeah. We all have dreams, aspirations, relationships that we want better, better partners, better communication skills. Now is the time to be crystal clear on what we want to up-level in our own lives, and by design, therefore, up-level the collective, which is all of us and the human condition. So.
Oh, I do actually have one more thing, because of course I do, right? I went out on my own just for a hike in nature the other day, and I wrote when I was in nature, and we're never alone. We are never alone. I was sitting there with my mother, with Mother Nature, who we haven't been so kind to for so long, and it's time. Like we're learning our lesson, and it's time to heal. It's time to reflect. Just as we really need to do that with ourselves and with one another. Yeah.
Love that. We're never alone. We're never alone, people.
No.
Very well said, Suze. So, Suze, thanks for joining me on this conversation and courage.
Thank you.
It was awesome. Thank you very much. And for all of you that have been listening and or watching this, thank you for joining on this this little ode to courage and kind of just a little contribution to the collective out there. And we will post in the show notes. We'll make sure that you have access to Suzanne to get in touch with her if you have any questions, follow her on social media, all that jazz. And we look forward to sharing some more stuff with you in the future. So, Suze, thank you. And again, mad love to the courageous out there. Keep fighting the good fight. And we're all going to get through this together for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye.